persistent presence of purpose is what you need to succeed in life. Couple that with tenacity, then you'll have a successful business journey as well. Your clarity of purpose and the belief in your abilities to make a difference can also act as your business and life superpower. I want to bring some context to this discussion, so for that, I'll turn to our friends from the Pew Research Center, who report approximately 15 million U.S. workers report being self-employed, which make up roughly 10% of the U.S. workforce. Based on the Pew Research Center's analysis of government data, the Pew Research Center says that roughly 76% of self-employed individuals work full-time, while 24% of self-employed workers have a part-time business. Chaz Wolfe describes himself as a serial entrepreneur who's had a roller coaster of an upbringing. He grew up in a single-mom household in the middle of America, and by the time he reached his mid-20s, he was a multimillionaire. Wolfe is a high-performing serial entrepreneur who is on a mission to ignite entrepreneurs to create and live an exceptional life. He has built, purchased, and sold multiple seven-figure ventures in a variety of fields, including home service, real estate, and consulting. The two principles that Wolfe values the most in his business and life ventures are discipline and integrity. One of the ventures that Wolfe is currently passionate about happens to be Gathering the Kings, which is intended to ignite serial entrepreneurs with genuine connection points, which intentionally developing a lifestyle of leveraging time, resources, and key relationships. And Wolfe joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. If you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to engage in conversation with you all about entrepreneurship this afternoon. Great to see you, and thank you for a few minutes, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Chaz, I know that you have a passion and love for business, my friend, and I know you came from middle America, from a household with a single mom to a multi-millionaire in your 20s. So tell me about your roller coaster of life, my friend, and what makes you so fabulous.
Well, to claim myself as fabulous would be objective. I don't know. It depends on who you're asking, maybe. I don't know. But I appreciate the question nonetheless. Growing up in a single mom family was unique, although not necessarily any longer. I mean, there's a lot of people that grow up single mom or single parent households now, unfortunately. But I guess the roller coaster maybe that you are referring to, what that produced in me is the desire for more, the desire for, of course, material and money. Like, okay, fine, we didn't have a bunch of that, so I want some of those things. But really, I just wanted to grab life, and I wanted to be fulfilled And that's really what I get to do now. I still have multiple companies, but Gathering the Kings is a mastermind group where not only I am in pursuit of all that I'm designed to be, but I get to help other people do the same thing.
Absolutely. And to that point, Chaz, I'm wondering your definition of passion and purpose and what those two words mean to you.
I think that passion by itself is a frequency. It's an energy. It's an excitement. It's an intensity. It's an obsession. And so I rarely use the word passion. I use the word obsession, but they're the same thing. And so I'm obsessed of a lot of areas in my life. I'm obsessed with growth, number one, but growth goes into all areas of my life. Growth is in my family. Growth is in my marriage. Growth is in my business. Growth is in relationships like this. I get to meet you here today, Kevin. And so when we are in full alignment with our being, I'm created to build. I know the identity of a builder, and I'm made to expand and to grow and to build things. And so I'm fully confident in that. So I'm excited about that. And I'm obsessed with it, which would be linked to your word passion. As far as purpose goes, I think it's attached to what I just said as far as identity. When you understand not only just who you are, but what you're made for, that plays into what does that actually look like in my life? And for me, the purpose is twofold. I get to build a legacy and wealth for my family. That's what the Bible says I should do. I should be able to take care of my kids and my grandkids. And so I'm absolutely obsessed with that. I'm building a portfolio of companies and real estate assets that my kids and my grandkids will be part of that with me. I'm not going to hand it off to them. They get to be part of it with me. And that then will continue legacy and wealth in my family. And then on the business side, I get to create business disciples. Kind of a weird term, but in essence, I get to not only influence others, but strategically, I'm influencing those who also have influence. And so there's a ripple effect. I get to help people become kings, or if they're already kings, be the best version of the king that they're supposed to be. And then in return, all the people that they're influencing in their kingdoms also are impacted because this individual is now raising to the highest of thought and the highest of action and the highest that they're designed to be.
And, Chaz, I am personally passionate of what I call the 3 E's in life, and that stands for energy, enthusiasm, and effort, my friend. And I'm curious, where do those 3 words apply in your own personal and professional life, my friend?
Yeah, so energy, enthusiasm, and effort. Is that what I heard you say?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And so energy is the same as frequency, right? We talked about that. Enthusiasm is the expression of the energy. And so you can muster energy. I can have energy. You have energy on this call. So do I. But what that looks like as we express it is through our obsession or through enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is just a in-person way to be excited or to show the energy. I can use that same energy though to build a business or to have a great relationship with my wife, right? So it starts with energy. I think you did a great job there. Enthusiasm is an expression of that, and effort is in everything. I think that there's a lot of people who just get stuck when it gets hard, and everything that we do in life is going to require effort, and sometimes a little bit more effort than maybe we think. And so I think that that's a pretty important threesome of words there you got.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chaz, I want to share just a little bit about myself and get your opinion on something. So, Chaz, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally, but I live my life through the saying that inclusion is the gateway to independence. So one of the things I'm obsessed with as well is working with businesses to help them sort of infuse a more inclusive culture. So when you think about the word inclusion and diversity, I'm wondering, what do you think of, and how do you think we can create a more inclusive culture both in business and in life?
Yeah, well, I think inclusive, probably the initial purpose of that is to recognize that we each are common to each other. There's a commonality between us, no matter our differences, right? And so you're talking about including people that are different than you, whether we have different ways of speaking or walking or getting around, transportation, or we have different colors of skin, right? And so that makes us different, but the commonality between us is so much greater. We're humans. We're created. We were created by a God that loves us. And so if I'm really boiling inclusion down, really it's a term that we shouldn't even have to use, because way down below that is love. And so if I see humans and I'm first loved, right? So I have faith and I believe that I was created by a God that loves me. And if I embody that, then I see you as also someone that was created by the God of all creation and that he loves. And so why wouldn't I include you? Inclusion for me is because there are people along the way who have lost love or the ability to see other people. And so now we have to have rules on how we treat people, because we lost the very foundation of what creation and our existence was all about, which was to commune and to love each other, be helpful. I mean, I should never even have anticipated, there should never be an issue here around skin color, around how we transport, like that. Those are just preferences or ways that you have to do certain things because of the way that you grew up. There are certain things that I do because I grew up a single mom family. It has nothing to do with your life. And for you to treat me differently because of those things is a little bit interesting. If we just were to look at each other and love each other, I think that we'd all have a lot more going on.
Yeah, and Chaz, I'm also curious to get your thoughts on the concept of perseverance, because, Chaz, at the age of 9, I was told that I wouldn't be able to walk without assistance for the duration of my life. But I always tell people that life is like a standard deck of playing cards, and we all have to sort of stack our deck in the direction that we want our life to go. And, we all have a life compass, and, it's my mission in life to point my life compass in the direction that I want to go, and really use my disability as a strength rather than a weakness to show people that there are different ways of looking at life. So I'm wondering your concept or belief in the word perseverance and what that word means to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you embody it, my friend. And perseverance is, you used the language deck of cards. We've all been dealt a hand of cards. And there's nothing that we could have done about that. Where I was born physically, in the country, the family of which I was born to, the color of my skin, the amount of money that my mom had or didn't have, the amount of siblings that I had, the type of school I went to or didn't go to, all of those things were not within my control. But they produced an environment for me to either win or not win. And so what I love about your story, Kevin, is that you gave us examples of how, even though someone might look at your disability or your situation, your deck of cards or your hand that you've been dealt, as something that could hold you back, you've always seen it as the reason to do or be who you've been called to be. And I would say the same thing for me. Growing up a single mom family, I didn't know my dad, right? I didn't have a dad. And so I would say things to myself and to other people who would ask about it, about like, oh, well, that's his loss, not mine. I'm good. Now, of course, there's the impact of a father, and I would have been a different person probably, but I didn't use it as an excuse, which is almost the exact language that you used. And so when we come across resistance in our life, that could be a disability, that could be the fact that I didn't have a lot of resources growing up, or that I didn't have a dad, whatever our stories give us, or our hand that's been dealt to us, we can either use that resistance to then be the reason that we push through, which is persistence, or we don't, and we stop and we let the resistance or the circumstances that are being dealt to us to control us. And then therefore we become a victim. You could not be doing this podcast right now. That'd be pretty easy. I'm sure I could not be doing this podcast right now. That'd be easy for me as well. But we choose to do things that are beyond maybe what our capabilities naturally appear to be, because we have greater ambitions. You want to make something of your life. You want to become the person that you're designed to be. Great. It's going to have to take some pushing through some of that resistance. And that's what persistence is. So hopefully that matches up with your definition.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chaz, based on your upbringing in a single mom household, I'm curious to ask you whether you use that as motivation to show up in your own kid's life and give them the male figure that you didn't have. So do you use that as motivation at all, raising your own kids?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Do I want to be a good dad? Yes. Right. I think that's the question that I ask myself. Do I use motivation from not having a dad to be a good dad? No, because that would be me feeling bad for myself. I would feel like, oh, woe is Chaz. He didn't have a dad, so I'm going to go give to my kids something that Chaz didn't have. And I don't believe that to be true. Chaz had all he needed. Now, I didn't have a physical dad in my life. Okay, fine. So there were things maybe missing that maybe you or other people who did have a dad got to experience. But I count that as part of my deck of cards or the hand that was dealt to me. So I can't look back on it and go like, oh, I got to do something different. I'm just accepting of what was. It was. And then now, as a person that wants to be all I'm designed to be, like you, that includes being a good dad. And so, yeah, will my kids live a different life or have maybe a different type of mentor in their life than I did because they have me as their dad? Yeah, of course. Do I want to be a good dad? Yeah, of course. I'm going to be a great dad. I am a great dad. But my past doesn't necessarily define it or motivate me towards it. It just was. It just is. And I can choose to do with that whatever I want. And in my case, what you're really asking is, am I using that as a reason? Well, yeah, like I want to give them what I'm designed to give them as their father. Do I want to leave and leave a void in there? No, not at all. But the ability for me to draw back into the past, yes, I see that. But I don't count it as like this deep hurt. And so there's no like real motivation to pull from it. It's just, it was what it was. That was my story. Now I can rewrite the story going forward. That's where I can come in. That's the control that I have, right?
Absolutely. And Josh, from a business perspective, I'm curious, what does it mean to you to be a serial entrepreneur with tenacity and purpose? What do you think that means to you?
Well, tenacity and purpose is needed to just win in life. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a serial entrepreneur, you you need both of those to actually win. So your question specifically around what does it mean to be to have those things inside of being a serial entrepreneur is like you just I just feel like I've 10x'd what's needed in my life because I just have 10 more companies maybe. And so to put it in real practical terms, there's a lot of things that need to be done. There's teams being built. There's businesses being grown. And it just requires a big bandwidth. And so what does it take to get things done? Tenacity, right? What does it take to actually achieve things? Is belief, which is tied to purpose. So all of those things that you're talking about, tenacity and purpose, I absolutely have to have those things, especially if I'm going to have multiple businesses going on as a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chaz, I know that growing up with your mom, you were sort of relied upon to provide the grit and sort of the financial backing for your family. I knew you had to drop out of college in order to help financially with your mom. So I'm curious, your background we've talked a lot about, but I'm curious, how did that shape you in wanting to accomplish in life?
Yeah, it's a good question. How did it shape me? And I guess the reality of the question that you're asking is that it put me into situations that maybe other people didn't have to at the age of 13, 15, 17, 20. And so I, like you said, I was much more of a partner. And even though, financially it was a short time. I mean, I didn't have to start working at 12 to help my mom per se, although later, yes, I did help the family in that circumstance that you outlined. But for the most part, if I wanted something in life, that's what I learned from her, was that I was going to have to go get it. And so to fast forward to that moment where I maybe gave up basketball, I gave up school to be a little bit closer to home, to help a little bit financially. That's what it was. It was me going, well, this is what I want in life, and I'm just going to go get it because, Kevin, you know more than me probably. Nobody's coming. Nobody's coming.
Yeah, no one knows you're out there unless you put yourself out there, right?
Right. Right. It's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Chaz, I know that you work now with your wife building your business empire. So, my first question is, what is it like working with your spouse? And what is it that you've learned about business, combining both family and business in one, my friend?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Julie is involved in some aspects of what we do in business, but for the majority, business is kind of a lane that I run, and the house and the kids and several other things are the lanes that she run or that runs. And so I think the bigger question that you're asking here is how do we collaborate? And whether we're both working in an individual task on a business or whether we're both being parents, there's obviously some crossing back and forth of things that we both are involved with, and then there are plenty of things that we're not both involved with. I take care of certain things, she takes care of certain things, but the baseline of all that is communication and alignment. And so we have a weekly meeting between us as husband and wife. We have a monthly family meeting. We try to run our family and house like a business, not to make it transactional, but so that we can be in alignment, we can communicate. And so we talk about each other's schedules. We talk about what's going on for the week or for the month. And she has certain lanes, and I don't get in those lanes unless she requests for me to. I allow her the autonomy, just like she allows me the autonomy and trust to run the business or whatever that is that's my lane. If I'm going to go hire a person for one of the businesses, that she may not even know if we hired a person today. Does she need to know that? Probably not. It's not part of her lane. Now, if we're talking, just communicating about the day, I might mention that we hired somebody today in whatever company. But it's not like us talking about the business perspective. So the answer to your question is we know each other's lanes. We've communicated. We've taken ownership of certain things in our life. And I don't try to run her lanes. She doesn't try to run my lanes, but we're obviously always willing to help where the other person might say, hey, I need you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jeff, one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you this afternoon was because of the idea of building social capital. I'm a big believer that no matter how smart you are or how many degrees you hang on a wall, you can always learn something from somebody else. That's one of the major reasons I wanted to start this podcast. So I'm fascinated to get your answer on the importance of building social capital and what goes into building sustainable relationships.
Yeah, I'm glad to use the word relationship because I do think that there's a difference between social and relationship capital. Social is where it starts, right? Like you said earlier, you have to put yourself out there for people to know you. But building a relationship is different than putting yourself out there. It's the second, third, and fifth, 18th step of that process, which is you intentionally seeing the other human across the screen or across the table, like we talked about earlier. I see the human. I have love for the human. I have curiosity for the human, right? That's why you started the podcast, is because you're curious. You like to ask good questions. And people that recognize that there's another human, that we can learn from that human, and then that draws us into curiosity, which then forces us to ask great questions. We'll not only learn a bunch, but we build relationships. This is what we do. And so what's the value in that? Everything in life that you want is through another person. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chaz, what do you think it means to live a championship lifestyle?
Well, championship to me means winning, and winning not just once, but again and again and again and again. And so the difference between winning once and again and again and again is the ability to master yourself and then all the areas of life so that you continue to win, because anybody can win once. I can remember in my sales career many years ago, I was a top salesperson. But the point is that there would be some people every now and then that would win, top salesperson for the week or for the month. But the person that wins the quarter or the person that wins the year is the person that won the most times throughout the year. And that person always knows how to live the championship lifestyle like you're talking about. And so it's not just winning one time. It's like not just I got lucky. I made one little deal and then I won. It's like, no, I'm putting in habits and discipline. I'm mastering. That's what those things are. I'm mastering life. I'm mastering myself. I'm mastering my thoughts. I'm mastering my actions every single day. I'm mastering my marriage. I'm mastering, being a good dad. I'm mastering business. I'm mastering sales and marketing and all these things that are necessary so that I can win in all these areas. I'm mastering my faith. I'm mastering prayer, all these things. And so that way I can live a championship lifestyle like you're talking about. I call it the exceptional life. You say championship lifestyle, I say the exceptional life. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting play on words for sure, my friend. And to that point, I'm curious to ask you, what does it mean to you to optimize your level of happiness in life? What does that mean to you?
Well, I love the word optimize. And optimize to me is a continual work on something to get it a little bit better. And so for me, optimizing happiness or my life is the ability to, first off, recognize that there's always another level. There's always a little bit more tweaking that can be done. That doesn't bring me anxiousness or like worry about like, oh my gosh, I'm not perfect. It's just a recognition that there's just another level to go to always, which actually should bring excitement. Like, oh, okay, I get to get better. I get to optimize. I get to get better, faster, stronger, whatever those optimization words might be in whatever area of life we're talking about. Happiness for me, though, obviously is doing the things that you love, but it's a lot more of a choice than I think people give credit to. I think I can choose to be happy. I think you, in your circumstances, have chosen happiness. And through optimism, in essence, is what it is, you've then found a way to do things that you love, which continues to bring you happiness. And I would say the same thing for me. I love building. I am a builder. That is my identity. So I have multiple companies. I have multiple teams. I have multiple children. Like I love building things. I love growing things. And so that brings me happiness or joy. Okay, great. But I can also choose that because there are some times where I'm doing the things that I love, but it's a hard day and I'm not maybe as happy as I was yesterday. But I can still choose happiness. So I think there's a lot of power in choice and not so much necessarily happiness coming from circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Chaz, I do a lot of speaking for corporate organizations on how to build an inclusive culture or how to build a culture where people can follow you on a consistent basis. So when you look at the corporate world today, what would be your message to managers on how they can get their staffs to follow people on a consistent basis?
Well, I guess the definition of a leader is someone who has followers. And so really easy check is just look behind you. Is there anybody there? And so that insinuates a couple things. One, are you leading from the front? Because if I have to look behind me to see if I have followers, that means I'm first out. I'm first in, which means I'm leading by example. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I'm not afraid to get in the foxhole, as they might say, which then further leads to the care or the intentionality that I have for the people on my team. So if I'm going to lead out front, I'm going to be in the day-to-day with them, and maybe not necessarily by task. Maybe my tasks are different, but in a corporate environment like that you're describing, or even in some of my teams that maybe aren't as corporate, but we're still building teams, I need them to know that I've got them. I've got their back. They can trust me. I can trust them. And there's no real other way to prove that other than by spending time with people and doing things that build trust. And so leading from the front is an easy one. It's also a really easy way for you to look back and see like if you have followers or not. Because if you don't, you're not really leading anybody.
Absolutely. And my friend, you say your superpower is accountability and your commitment to leadership. So talk to me about your superpower and how it applies to every aspect of your life. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, I don't know if I've said it quite like that, but I think accountability is huge. I think that accountability and tenacity go well together. I think that if I could maybe boil it down a couple of levels, it's I do what I say I'm going to do. And so, yeah, is that accountability? Sure. But that's the difference between those who have and have not, or the successful and the unsuccessful. It's just that I have done what I said I was going to do. Not every time. I'm not perfect, but I've completed the task, whatever it was, time and time again. I say something and then I don't lie to myself, and I'm definitely not going to lie to you. So that's accountability for sure. The intensity of that is just the pace or the passion, like you talked about earlier, of what we run. I'm going to run hard and I'm going to say a lot of things, but I'm also going to back it up and do the things that I said.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chaz, what brings you the most hope in life, my friend?
Hope is a great word. You can have hope or you can be hopeless. Hope is the thought of something more, something better, another thing. And so the greatest hope that I have is that Jesus died for me, so that way my sins are forgiven and I can be with God in the next age forever and ever and ever, and that my sin doesn't separate me from him. That's the greatest hope that I have in this life. The greatest hope that I have is that I can be who I'm designed to be, who he designed me to be. So that way, whether it's other people that get to know the love that I know, or whether they get impacted by me in business, whether they get to be one of my children and they get to be who they're meant to be from my mentorship. That's the hope, is that I get to continually work towards who I'm designed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Chaz, if I gave you, say, $1 million to promote a commercial about unity of purpose, well, what do you think you would focus the commercial on? Because, one of the things one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast is I looked at the world, Chaz, and I said to myself, there had to be more that binds us together instead of taking a moment to move us apart. So one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast was to build more bridges of what I call unity. So how do you think you would structure a commercial to emphasize the importance of unity and working together?
Yeah. Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich, he defines unity, not the exact word, but he calls it harmony. And the power of a mastermind, which is what Gathering the Kings is. That's one of my companies now. It's my passion business, as you said it earlier. It's what I know I've designed to do. I have a lot of other companies too, and I'll always have multiple companies, but Gathering the Kings is a thing that I know that I was put on this earth to do. And so inside of that, the power of the mastermind is what you're talking about, unity or harmony. When two or more people gather together with the same end result, the purpose, like what you're talking about, then real power or leverage happens. And so when Kevin and I come together and we have the same purpose of to help other people through this podcast who might be listening, whether it be live or 5 years from now, depending upon when you're listening to this, you're impacted at a greater level because Kevin and I are in unity in towards helping you. And so we're in a mastermind right now. And that's what real masterminding is like two or more people coming into harmony with a definiteness of purpose. It's like, no, this is the clear thing that we're going to do together. And then our minds get to help each other accomplish that very thing, which is the power or the result then of the unity or harmony.
Yeah, and Chaz, I have two more questions for you. And the first has to do with, if I asked you to fast forward to the end of your life, and I said you could only describe your life in one sentence, what do you think that sentence would be? And what do you hope people would take away about your life in that one sentence?
I hope that they would say one day that Chaz Wolfe was a builder of family, a builder of people, a builder of assets, and he loved well.
Yeah, so that leads into my final question is about legacy. When you look at your personal and professional legacy, my friend, I'm curious, how do you want that to be defined, and how do you hope it impacts others?
Yeah, well, as I've already mentioned, we have a portfolio of companies and real estate assets, and that will only continue to grow. And so from a what people maybe traditionally think is legacy, will be passed on. There'll be wealth passed on to my family, and there'll be influence passed on to my family. But inside of that, what I also know is that the knowledge, the specified knowledge of how to continue not only the wealth but also the influence is just as important. And so it's really important for me to build my family and my children and my grandchildren in a way to where it's not just money being given to them, it's not just influence being given to them, but that it's something that they're a part of and that they get to build along the way. So that way it's a true handoff and not just something that I give to them, but that they have also been a part of building this portfolio of assets and people. Like I said, I want to build both.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chaz, follow and tell me if people want to get connected with the good work that you do, my friend. What's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, they can go to gatheringthekings.com, especially if they're an entrepreneur and they want to be around other highly successful entrepreneurs. We've got different programs for entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in, and we mastermind together so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. It's the easiest way to say it. That's the greatest way to get a hold of me.
Well, fabulous. I certainly enjoyed our conversation about business life and maximizing potential, my friend. Your work in the space and time on my behalf this afternoon is certainly most appreciated. I want to thank you for the good work that you do to elevate the world forward, my friend, and for joining me to engage in conversation. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Kevin. I appreciate what you do and the example that you set. Thank you for having me.